Welcome, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us for this webinar. I'm Sarah McElmurray with Rapid Fire Tools. Joining us today is Harry B. with SMB Nation, Mark Winter, VP of Sales, and David Hinderer, Product Specialist for Rapid Fire Tools. Before we begin with today's content, I'd like to cover a few logistics. Because we have such a large number of attendees on today's webinar, we have muted all phone lines to reduce any background noise. If you are experiencing any technical issues, please notify us using the chat box on the right side of your screen. There will be a Q&A session at the conclusion of the presentation, but please feel free to enter questions as they come to you throughout the presentation. Also, today's webinar is being recorded and will be available for you within a few days. Just to set everyone's expectations and make sure you've come to the right place, this webinar is tailored specifically for the SMB community. Harry will start us off with a community update, and then Mark will spend a few minutes talking about the importance of performing network and security assessments for generating new business with new clients, as well as using them with existing customers. Of course, the meat of today's presentation is on our network detective tool. David will go through a live demonstration of the two components, the data collector that scans the network, and the report generator, where you'll brand and create professional reports. At the end of the presentation, we will present our webinar specials with a link to a special order page with some excellent discounts and an opportunity for you to get an additional savings if you act quickly. All right, I'm going to turn it over to you, Mark.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that, Sarah. Actually, I think, Harry, you're up next, sir.
Okay. Well, always a pleasure, Mark. And, you know, more so than ever. Got a couple SMB Nation updates for the audience, but before we get to that, I just want to thank everybody, as always, for taking time out of your busy day. Golly gee, we just crossed Q3, now we're into Q4, and everything goes back to zero. It's October 2nd, so all the markers have been reset to zero, and it's a race to the deadline for the end of the year. So next slide, please. Couple of updates for you folks. Once again, you know, we have our charity, the Outlook Foundation. It's an independent foundation in Las Vegas, and each year SMB Nation favors one charity or another. That's our DNA. We have the Drop It, Drag It, Delete It campaign going on right now, and I'd love to hear from you personally. I'm at extension 103, so if you just call into SMB Nation, you can get the number off the website too, but I'm at extension 103, and I'm happy to tell you how we have kind of a special offer, if you go down to my fourth bullet point, to attend the SMB Nation Fall Conference if you donate a used computer or laptop to the Outlook Foundation. I'll tell you, the response has been overwhelming, and it's the right thing to do, and it's a good way to get you to the Fall Conference. And I realize, you know, I'm probably talking to the Southwest United States at this point. We're 1 week out, and part of that is that today's purpose, the whole migration story, is a pillar conversation at the Fall Conference, and we have Rapid Fire Tools will be there, and they're actually assisting on one of the academic sessions to do a deep dive on the importance of assessments in any migration scenario. You see in the last point, we have the the Master Certified Migration Expert title that we've launched. So that's a 1-hour exam, but more importantly, it's clock time. So by attending the Fall Conference, you get a couple hours of clock time, and you're on your way to having the Master designation. That's been very popular. Again, give me a call at 103 for any of the above. Next slide, please. So xpmigrations.com, our co-op. For those of you that aren't aware, I kind of like to start with that now, Mark. This conversation is getting momentum. Certainly after Labor Day, we track all the media outlets and news feeds, and this is a trending topic of the XP migrations with the April 8th end of extended support. Each device, according to Microsoft, and I concur, each device is in the range of $200 in service revenue when you do a rip and replace. And Mark, I know we'll talk about that later, but that's significant. I mean, that's a game changer when you think of doing a handful of these or many of these over the next year. By the way, there will be work after April 8th. Don't kid yourself. I want to encourage you to think about getting XP Migration trained and certified. It's all at xpmigrations.com. And then the pie charts essentially are showing you guys one thing, that it's still a huge installed base of XP machines out there in the world. Quite frankly, it's a little shocking. And so it's a real greenfield opportunity for the SMB channel partner on your own or working with us, but in all cases, taking advantage of the tools that are available to you. Next slide, please. Bottom line is it's time we have a detour, and you and your customers have to have a look in the mirror. It's time to grow up. We have the small business server product line expiring at the end of Q4. We're in Q4 right now. That's for all versions. And then we have the end of support for anything 03 or XP. And when I say it's time to grow up, what I'm really trying to say is we're just at one of those pivotal times where doing nothing is unacceptable. You have to make decisions. And for whatever reason, there's often a tendency to wait till the last moment and that kind of thing. And I'm encouraging you now in Q4 to jump right on this. Next slide, please. So our fall conference, only going to spend a second on this, folks. You can see all of this at fall.smbnation.com. But what I wanted to highlight is we have the migration pathway. We have a case study, and then we have a couple of different technical topics over on the far right. Again, it's all at fall.smbnation.com. Next slide. The business speak path speaks towards hybrid hedge strategies, which I believe is the truth and where we're going to end up and sorting it out between on-prem and cloud. And then the sales and marketing speeches. Here's what I mean to say. Our sales and marketing speech is important, yes. We put them as the pre-day. We definitely got feedback from you guys that this year in particular you wanted focused technical content. Now, we believe in a business conversation that includes sales and marketing. So that's actually, there's still room for the pre-day on Wednesday, the 9th, but that's actually quite crowded. So you'll want to jump on that if you would like to kind of weave the sales and marketing conversation into your SMB Nation fall experience next week. Next slide, please. So, why would customers hire XP Migrations? Why are we having a conversation on a couple of different levels with you? In a moment, I'm going to show you our webpage and talk about what we do. But basically, what we're trying to do as a co-op is we're trying to bring together expert talent. You guys have 12 plus years experience on average. I get it. You know what you're doing. You pass at least our assessment, if not go for the master certification. We do run a background check. You have a toolkit. That's actually what we're talking about today is the assessment tool. We provide training. I'd put today's webinar in the training category. So check, training. We have a little fun. Look on the website. We have a little fun with a co-op dividend where you can get a job or a headset after working so many hours for us and building up what we call X points. You can go shopping in our store. And then finally, we have a 110% guarantee. So we're investing in you much like you're investing in us and spending time with us today. Next slide, please. So
I think this is where I come in, Harry.
Yeah. Mark, go ahead, and we'll jump into the tool. Thank you, Mark.
Absolutely, and we'll keep it interactive as well. But yeah, Harry, thank you very much for joining us and for having us on the webinar today. We certainly love being part of the SMB Nation community, and really looking forward to being an SMB Nation next week. I mean, Vegas is a terrific place, but the education is going to be just phenomenal, like it always is. So I'm Mark Winter, VP Sales for Rapid Fire Tools. I'm going to talk just a little bit about XP Migrations, but also weave that into how as service providers, we can use IT assessments to win business, keep customers, find new projects, but also how XP migrations, as a looming deadline, really can fit into that and help make you a good bit of money. We'll then get a little bit into the Network Detective platform, and that's comprised of 3 distinct modules, by the way, that can be purchased separately or together as a bundle, depending on your business needs to save you money. And Network Detective's been out now for, a little over 3 years. We've got thousands of very happy users. We continue to add to the product and grow the user community. We talk to people all the time who are thrilled with the product and would love to have the chance to work with some of you if you think it's a potential fit for you. I am joined, as Sarah said, by David today, who's going to go through a quick training on 3 kinds of assessments. And, we'll wrap up with a special deal on Network Detective for you. So just very briefly, there is a free XP migration assessment tool that's available from Harry's site. We had a little hand in this, and it's real simple. There's 3 simple steps. First is simply download the scanning tool. You'll perform the scan of your prospect or customer network, and then you'll import that up to the website where the reports will be generated and then returned to you. You'll get an email back with a link to the reports. I think that's how that works. It's simple to use. And what you get back is a very nicely formatted report with some readiness information, kind of a summary of the entire network. How ready is it? Number of XPs that are or are not migratable or ready for Windows 7 or 8, along with the detailed information that tells you, what you might need to check to certainly validate whether it is or not, everything from CPU, memory, OS, etc. And you can get this from Harry's site. Did you want to join in and just mention a thing or two here, Harry?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in fact, I have in my second monitor, of course, the email up, and I'm now, Mark, I'm listening and I'm engaged. I'm not doing emails, but I did peek over, and a couple people have actually already gone over. So, thank you very much, folks. Go to xpmigrations.com and get familiar with our site, and then click the Join Us menu option up on the top. And there's a form for you to fill out if you'd like to be part of our co-op and get work and participate. But more importantly, the arrow is pointing to the bonus, which is you can download the tool. I guess our feeling is with the kind of numbers I showed you early on the pie chart, this is a blue ocean. So, good for me, good for you, good for Mark. Let's solve this problem. So thank you, Mark, for the screenshot, the shout out. Let's continue.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Harry. So, IT assessments are more than, it's something we're all doing, right? And there's a lot of really good uses for offering IT assessments for prospects and customers. And they can be general network and system level assessments to deeper security and exchange. And when speaking with people in the community, the top uses range from everything from lead gen to pre-engagement checks, regular offerings for all their clients, and of course, the XP migration looming. Definitely a lot of folks doing that as well. I'm going to touch on that. So as far as lead generation, at trade shows and on the phone, we speak with a lot of service providers, and it should be no surprise that a key area of focus is growing their business by adding customers. And so how do you do that? So marketing and lead generation, of course. But along with, really good solid tactics, maybe a good list, good copy, you really do need a compelling offer, or, what some people call a call to action, something that's going to get a prospect to take a look at what you have to offer, raise their hand and say, sure, I'm up for a sales call because you're offering me something valuable. So let me ask you, have you ever Googled your competition? One of the things I think you'll notice is that a lot of them really do offer free network audits or free network assessments. And how obvious? I mean, is there a better way to entice a prospect? You offer them a free, valuable service, and at the same time, you get to take a look under the hood to see what's wrong so that you can highlight those issues and sell against it. And ultimately, you would need to do an assessment anyway in order to quote the opportunity if you're bringing them on for, contract or managed services. And definitely, as part of this, you're going to look for and find XP migrations, and these are definitely things you can sell against. But performing assessments can really be very time-consuming and costly. unless you've got the right tools. The right tool is going to be non-invasive, won't leave anything behind, especially if the prospect already has an IT person or company, because they're not going to want you to tip them off that they're having somebody else look at their network. And it's got to be automated, right? So you can kind of kick off a data collection, let that run, so that you have a chance to, get away from the computers, meet with the business owners, learn about their business and challenges, how they use IT, what their problems are. But more importantly, you're building rapport. You're selling. You're doing what you need to be doing out there instead of just gathering data. And of course, any data collection does need to be fast and problem-free. It's got to make you look good. The end result should be reports that present the information in a professional, really well-organized manner, and should be brandable by you with your information and your customer's name, so it looks like a report that you did for them, which of course it is. And you're looking for a way, again, you got a chance to look under the hood. You're looking for a way to show that their IT is not being handled as well as it could be. Look for poor configurations, security risks, external vulnerabilities, XP, where they're going to need to, migrate those. So keep in mind, though, if you're offering a free assessment, you really do need a leave behind. That's going to give good value, goes along with your proposal that you're going to leave with the client, but doesn't give away all the details so that they or another IT company can leverage the assessment and the work that you've provided. Now, whether or not you use assessments as lead generation, let's say you're ready to build your proposal for onboarding a new client. And you're going to need to do an assessment, because unless you're looking for trouble, you really can't provide a proper quote unless you know the technical makeup of what's there. You got to know what you're going to be supporting. How many workstations are active? What type of apps are they running? What's the makeup of the PCs? Are they new or old? Are they running XP in 2003? Do they need to be upgraded? Can you support them? How much RAM? Because all this gives you an idea of the types of issues you're likely to encounter and how needy that organization is going to be. And of course, how many printers and network devices are you going to have to support too? And then within Active Directory, there's a lot more to try and understand. Is it properly set up and maintained? Is it maybe overly complex? And then how secure is the network from the outside and from the inside? So performing a detailed assessment is really a necessary component of providing a quote and then building the plan to onboard that client, right? Because you may have to put in that you've got to move 4, 5, 6 XPs, or maybe it's the entire network. And then if Exchange is part of the proposal, you want to include a scan of that too, so that you know how well it's set up and how it's being used by the prospect. Of course, also, if you're proposing possibly an Exchange migration, you really need the deep level of understanding that a good tool can provide you. And good documentation of the network. Everything from the assets to the user logins, AD configuration to network shares should definitely become part of the proposal as a baseline for the project. And it's often essential for justifying complex or time-consuming tasks. So using assessments when onboarding really is obvious. You definitely want to make sure you've got that baseline snapshot of the new client's network and their system configurations prior to onboarding, since you need to know everything about the environment. You need to know everything that you're going to be supporting, what they are, their age, everything I just talked about. And is there XP there? Again, is that going to be a separate project, or are you going to weave that into your managed services contract? Definitely something to be thinking about ahead of time for that first years of work. And most of you are using a PSA or ticketing system like Autotask or ConnectWise. So you're going to need to get the information into that as well. Ideally, you'd like to be able to take the info that you just gathered from your assessment and pre-populate your PSA with that info. With Network Detective, as you're going to see in a few minutes with David, you'll see that you actually can do that. Very easy to do. So performing assessments, whether at prospects or existing sites, is often going to turn up the opportunity to identify new projects. Examples again, identifying systems that are near capacity, or XP or old machines nearing their end of life. So all these lead to XP migrations or prospective upgrade or other migration projects. You might find Active Directory cleanup to fix group membership. I spoke with a Network Detective customer not long ago. They ran a report against a very large network. It was a portion of a school system. Found over 700 old accounts with logins still active. So these were students who could actually still log into the network. A huge security risk, something their on-site IT was supposed to handle. Of course, this led to a nice immediate project and ongoing work for them. You also will look for inconsistent security policies or find holes in security practices that need to be put in place. And again, Exchange migrations are obvious, whether it's to 2012 or, Exchange 2010 or 2013 or to the cloud, doesn't matter. It's a great opportunity for you. And having the documentation of the current environment will really help you scope the project and give you the documentation that you need on, mailboxes, size, distribution lists, mobile device use, and a lot more. And of course, reports from the assessments do more than just help you find potential projects. They document the issue, and they provide a mechanism or a tool to help you sell that project to your clients. And don't forget to run it afterwards. It documents what you've done, proves you've done it, and might even help you get paid faster. And finally, you definitely ought to be providing a regular health check for all of your customers, and make that part of your regular technology business reviews, whether that's quarterly, semi-annually, or whatever it is. It's definitely going to add value to your relationship and often something you could charge extra for. Make sure you aren't supporting systems that may have been added without your knowledge, that perhaps you're not even being paid to support. Uncover issues that need fixing, and identify and document areas where you can sell new projects. And again, you might start turning up XP that you weren't aware of. Or if you were aware of it, now you're documenting it, and you've got a nice way of proposing a project as part of your customer checkups to your clients, because you certainly don't want somebody else coming in behind you and doing that for you. And of course, also consider doing security assessments. Even if you don't have the expertise, a good tool like ours can give you the information you need to run a security scan of the client's network, inside and out, find vulnerabilities, point out what you need to do to fix them. It will help your customer actually sleep much better at night. And this is often something you should be able to charge extra for. I talk to people who are rolling out to their certain managed services customers a new recurring service where for $199 a quarter, $299 a quarter, whatever it is, depending upon the size of the customer and the business they're in, a nice ongoing recurring revenue stream. Easy to sell, something that they often find very valuable. So there's a lot of reasons you should be using IT assessments to both build your business and retain clients. But really, you do have to have the right tool, so it doesn't require expensive and time-consuming data collection and report generation. I mean, you don't want your expensive engineers out there spending 2-3 hours and then having to come back and build reports. And also, you don't want to have to hire or use expensive personnel like experts, security experts, to perform the kind of work. And that's where we come in with Network Detective. So let me give you just a brief description of performing a network assessment with Network Detective. So it's specifically designed so that you run what we call a data collector on your prospect or client network without installing any software. That way it's completely non-invasive, no registry changes, nothing's installed at all. And that, like I said, is especially important when you're prospecting. It works very quickly. Scans can run in as little as 20 to 30 minutes for smaller networks. It gathers the data, produces a zip file. You bring that back and import it into our Network Detective app. That's where you set up the branding with your logos, customer information, click a button to generate the reports. It really is easy to do. I mean, I talk to technically savvy salespeople all the time who can go on-site, run the data collector during their introductory meeting with a potential client. It gathers the data, they run through their interviews, build rapport, and move on toward the sale. So this is important. I'm often asked why I would need a tool like Network Detective if I've got Kaseya, Naval, or some other monitoring system. So sure, you can install a bunch of licenses or put a probe out there for a week or two. But what does that cost you in terms of the license costs, let alone the time and effort? And then what happens, you got to spend more time if you put agents out there if you don't get the customer. You got to go take those agents back out. And then what happens in a prospecting situation if something goes wrong? Seriously, if you go in, install software, something happens later that day or the next day, who are they going to blame? Most likely you, right? You were the last one to do anything. So you might even get a chance to come back in and fix that problem for free. Like I said, Network Detective is completely non-invasive. You run the data collector, nothing gets installed on the network or the systems. You bring the data file back to generate the reports. So even if you are running monitoring, there's still a really good reason, though, to run Network Detective on existing clients where the monitoring is installed. And that's because typically monitoring programs don't perform any real ongoing analysis or reporting of Active Directory, nor do they perform external vulnerability scans or regularly look for open ports on an IP scan across the network. So all of those looking for potential security holes. Nor do they provide professional documentation like things like network shares, who has access to what, security policies, and none that I'm aware of do a deep dive into the Exchange environment. And using Network Detective regularly at your clients will do that for you. And there's a change report, too, that will help you quickly identify systems you might not be charging for. So I hope that's given you a few things to think about, why network and security assessments must be a key component of your prospecting and onboarding, as well as regular health checks. And of course, how you could use free tools like the XP migration, or a broader tool set like what Network Detective can offer you, and find additional projects, really document the environment, as well as finding the Exchange migration. So at this time, I'm going to turn this over to David. Let him go through a more detailed demonstration of the product, review some sample reports. And as a reminder, at the end of the prezo, we've got some special offers for you, so stay tuned.
Hey, thank you so much, Mark. Again, my name is David Hinder, Product Specialist here with Rapid Fire Tools. Going to kind of get right into it. So it doesn't really matter whether your assessment process is manual or automated today. Network Detective is completely revolutionary. Looks like a few steps here, some of them with a couple sub-points, but we're going to go through all of this during the live demo. But essentially, again, it's a portable application. You'll run from their domain controller as a domain admin. It's going to scan the network, pull back the data, and then you're going to use that to build the reports. A couple other things as a part of that, but we'll cover those during the demo. So the reports that it produces, they're yours. They're from you to your customers, no mention of us, completely white labeled. We have a great customization engine that will help you further tailor them and your color, your logos, things like that. But essentially they're Word, Excel, and Visio documents. So if you wanted to, you could edit them a little further and put your own theme or template. You can take the Excel or Visio outputs and use those for other purposes as well. And just some great reports. So again, kind of getting right into it, let me take screen control and show you how the tool works. So what we have here, it's the Network Detective application. So while the Network Detective data collector doesn't require any installation, this is going to be on your desktop or laptop, workstation, etc., back at your office. You can have it on any number of computers. We don't charge by the number of computers or anything like that. It's just an installed application that runs the .NET framework. So it would have to be in Windows or Parallels or something similar. From the Network Detective application, you'll do a few things. This is where you'll eventually import the scan and create your reports. But before you leave for customer site, definitely want to start your external vulnerability scan. Give us a label, so your customer name here. Give us an IP range. It'll email you when it's complete. You can turn it off if you'd like. Other than that, you hit next, and it's going to run the scan from our servers. So one of the great things we do that's going to be different from probably any other product you'll find is that that's the extent of what you need to do to perform an external vulnerability scan. Now, again, it's not a pen test, so if you need that for certain requirements, you still have to do a pen test, but it's great for remediation, for kind of cleaning up before that pen test is needed, and could be part of an ongoing managed security service as well. So something else you'll want to do from the Network Detective app, hit download the data collector. It's this link in the top right. Before you go to the customer site, you're going to want to have the newest data collector because we're adding new things all the time. I recommend you put it to 2 thumb drives. That way you can do a central scan, and then some of the secondary or ancillary scans you could do from your second thumb drive and make your timing concurrent. From here, you can also create your Inform documents. Just to show you what Inform is, it's a way to do surveys and interviews, and there are a lot of things that you can't automate. Who controls their phone system, who's responsible for support, is their cabling labeled, do they have their equipment sitting on the floor, or is everything put in a rack, how it should be. Just a lot of things, key card access, bring your own device policy, things like that. So once you've got those documents and the data collector and your external vulnerability scan, you're ready to head to the customer or prospect site. Now, as you can see here, I'm remoted into a domain controller. Again, you're going to want to run this from the domain controller as a domain administrator. You don't need to have that information. It's something that they could sign in for you, and it just piggybacks on the current credentials. But to keep things real simple, from their primary domain controller, you'll just run the scan. Again, it's going to piggyback on the current sign-in, or you could say there's no domain controller if it's a work group. Hit next. It's going to load all the OUs, so you could drill down if you wanted to. The default's going to collect for all. Again, the premise of Network Detective is really to create a standardized process There are a lot of tools that can capture different pieces of data here and there, but doing it all, making sure you get it all every time. It's a fixed standard format, doing analytics on it, producing reports. That's really where Network Detective shines. So the goal of the data collector is to where you don't have to be a high-level, high-billable tech or tier 2, tier 3. You can be a salesperson as long as you can identify a domain controller and know how to sign in and follow a wizard. Again, if there was multiple locations, and here you could drill down and say, I want these specific OUs, but the defaults just collect for all. Like most wizards, it's just usually hitting next, adding in a little bit of information and confirming. External domains, their domain.com. Very simple and straightforward. It's going to do who is an MX, domain ownership, renewal, things like that. IP range. So again, if it's a salesperson, probably want to be minimally technical, but definitely doesn't have to be 150 plus an hour employee doing this. They key in the IP range they want. It'll scan multiple subnets as long as they're reachable and they're not blocking queries. So you just key in what you're looking for and we'll scan that. SNMP, we pull public string by default. You can add in additional community strings if you'd like. MBSA, it's one of the tools we hook into. There are a lot of servers out there that already have MBSA on them. We use MBSA specifically for patching information and local system password strength. So localhost/administrator, localhost/whatever account. If you're running this as a non-invasive scan, you're promising that to the customer, maybe you're going in under the radar when they have an IT provider today, don't install MBSA, don't install anything. The beauty of Network Detective is, again, it's portable, but in order to get that patching or local system strength info, we need to have MBSA. So you skip it if you can't put it on. User control tests, so we're testing content accessibility to social media, pornographic, illegal downloads, things to that effect. You can add extra URLs if you'd like. Beyond that, we're on the verify and run. So you'll want to hit protocol availability scan. This will test to the different machines and tell you who's fully available, who's partially available, who's unavailable. And you'll use this data to kind of know who to do a local capture on if you need to. So some machines aren't going to be reachable due to firewalls or other policies, and that's just a fact of life. Well, the nice thing about Network Detective is it's going to do that pre-scan for you and tell you who you should spend a little extra time with. So you're hitting start. Well, you're, of course, telling it where to output to. So again, prospect, output back to your thumb drive, current customer, put it on your desktop or wherever you'd like. So you just hit start, and at this point, you would do a couple, again, of those secondary or ancillary sort of data captures. So maybe there's a couple of machines giving you less than full info. Go ahead and do a hand touch on those and do the local capture. Maybe they're running an Exchange server on the environment. Do an Exchange capture using our Exchange data collector. It looks very similar and works in the same fashion. Maybe you're wanting to fill out those inform documents to, who has keycard access. Is there climate control in the server room? Is everything labeled with the IP address and make, model, manufacturer info, stuff like that? Just a lot of different information that you could fill out that's going to open different doors and give you different opportunities. So once you finish that and you've captured all the data, you're ready to head back to your office and produce some reports. So again, back in the Network Detective tool, you would sit down, plug in your thumb drive or thumb drives, and you'd import everything. You go to import a scan, you hit browse, you go to where the files are located, you pick your files, and then you hit next. You give it a name. So from here, we'll say, MyCust, quarter 3, 2013. Hit next, and it's going to do one thing. So again, as I mentioned, there may be some machines that are giving you less than full info, and you did a local capture on those. Well, in this case, this is how you're going to fill in the blank. So we're going to right-click and select all, and we're going to say all of these local captures I did are part of the domain. Now, if there's a workgroup computer or a Mac in the environment and you did a capture on that, you could assign it to custom, which will put it in the workgroup category. You can rename that if you'd like, but essentially you're just kind of filling in the blanks with this merger, and then it's going to let you know it finished, and then you're ready to do a couple different things. So from here, you can generate a report or you can export. So the way the export feature works is it works with both Autotask and ConnectWise. So it'll create configuration items from a network assessment scan. It'll update ones that share the same title. You pick the company and how everything's going to be mapped. Or you can export with an Exchange capture the contacts. So very straightforward. Again, you pick the company, you pick how everything's supposed to be, and then you just kind of pick your files. So you can see we have a lot of different reports in our different modules. Again, we have network assessment, security assessment, and Exchange assessment as our 3. and very straightforward. You just pick your reports, and it's going to ask for a couple extra files. So you can see here it wants an external vulnerability scan. Well, I'll give it this external scan. I'll hit next, and I'll build out my reports. So I say who it's for, who it's from. So it's for your customer name here by Your IT Company Inc. You pick your name. A lot of these are going to be default. You pick your header and logo, so you browse to those things. You pick your theme, which style you want to use for the reports. You pick the colors. You can also use custom colors if you want it to match your header or logo. So maybe you have a lot of blues in yours, and you want to do kind of an ascending blue pattern. Very easy to set up, and then you hit generate, and it's going to build out your reports. A little more customization. You add in the cover image, just different stylings, and again, that's going to be all created client-side. It's very simple to put together. One of the reports you may notice was the XP migration report, which, as we discussed a little earlier, is available from the XP migration site, but it's also part of our network assessment module. So it's created client-side, but part of that's also it's going to tie up the computer, which does not make for a good presentation. So I've highlighted here for you, these are your network assessment reports. Here are your security assessment reports, your exchange assessment reports, and then you have some inform reports. I'm just going to kind of touch on a couple of these because we do have samples on our website as well. We're happy to send those along to you. But just to pop a couple of them open, we have a client risk report. Again, the beauty of the tool is that there's a lot of products that will give you data, just numbers or words, but very few tools actually format into reports. Very few tools do analytics, give you a risk score, do actual diagnosis to show you what sort of risks, or even put it at a high level. So in here you can see this is a sample report you may present to a business owner, somebody a little less technical. It's also a great leave behind, as Mark mentioned earlier, if you're doing a free assessment. This is something that's going to say 16 old user accounts haven't logged in. It's a security risk. You have machines that are in extended support, Windows XP machines, password risks on machines, open listening ports. Everything's going to be built into these different charts and graphs. Again, this is produced automatically for you. It doesn't require any additional work on your part. Just very straightforward tool, great reports, and great results. We also have detailed reports. Each module is going to have basically the equivalent of a client risk report, and then it's going to have some detailed analysis, Excel output, things like that. But you can see there's a lot of different categories we touch on here. We're looking at FSMA roles and organizational units. We're looking at user accounts. Let me just page through this a little bit. Some user accounts you're going to see last login information, password set, enable, disable, expiration. It's doing a dig into Active Directory, so it's not just looking at devices like your RMM might. It's also going to scan AD. It's going to look for things on the network you may not be aware of, everybody an administrator, for example. We do DNS, we do antivirus, we do patching, we do speed testing, just a lot of different data. I'm just going to kind of jump through. So this is patching, endpoint security and backup, so antivirus, anti-spyware, listening ports on the network. Just, again, a lot of different things. We have this available in Excel again, so you can do your own charts and graphs. An asset detail report, which will show you a per PC view. So again, just kind of jumping to an individual computer. You can see any of the information on that. It's automatically put together for you. Doesn't require any work on your part. Just got to run the scan and produce the reports. That XP migration report that, obviously one of the focal points of today's webinar. So automatically built for you. This is something that you'll get kind of the free version through the xpmigrations.com website. But it's, again, part of the network assessment module as well, where it'll show you any XP computers in the environment, and it'll give you a risk score, or a probability score, rather, of it being able to be upgraded to Windows 8. It's going to look at the processor, RAM, free disk space, video adapter, things like that. And it's going to give you a different rating based on the machine, poor through excellent. In the security module, we're doing an external vulnerability scan, which is absolutely phenomenal, since a lot of tools don't have that, and even if they did, they're not putting it into very concise terms like this. Open listening ports, security issues, everything's color coded and labeled, and ready for you to do some remediation. We do share permissions on the exchange side. We're doing mobility even, a great sort of door opener, because a lot of people are synchronizing their personal devices, and that's a great kind of thing to put in a mobile policy or MDM sort of software. or maybe you want to upsell to Citrix or SharePoint based on a lot of users synchronizing their own devices. Inform is going to build out an IT SWOT analysis, so as you indicate things are a strength, weakness, opportunity, or threat, they're going to automatically fill out this report. We have an interview response report as well, so after you've filled out everything, there's going to be sections with pictures. It's going to have all the information from your interview, data you collected while on site, just a wealth of different reports, and again, they're designed to help you automate this process, help you close more business, compete more effectively, and essentially automate that portion of the business. Let me go ahead and change presenter back over to Mark. And now that you've seen a bit of how Network Detective works, what some of the reports are like, I'm going to kind of take you through some of the wins from it. So obviously you're looking to turn the reports into revenue. XP migrations are really no different. It's something that you're going to want to show customers the risk, establish that fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and hopefully turn that into an opportunity for you to grow your business. So winning new business, lead gen, pre-engagement, really before you do anything at a customer site or before you've taken them on as a customer, you need to know the state of the environment. You want to show them what's going on with it as well. So as example, you're probably going to want to show inconsistencies in quality, network mismanagement. So old user accounts, everybody's an administrator, share permissions not set up properly. A lot of open listening ports, people using VNC instead of using a VPN into the network, just different things you can find, different things you can highlight, and definitely some great opportunities off of that. So as example, old user accounts are a risk to the network. People can still access things they shouldn't. They can still remote in. They can turn off the server. They can access files. Just bad thing to have. Patching. A lot of business owners understand that machines that aren't patched are posing a security risk, and some great opportunities to maybe do a WSUS server or maybe patch management through your RMM. It's just a lot of different opportunities we can uncover. Part of having a less than quality provider is having an unnecessary exposure to risk. Could be external vulnerabilities, could be egress, so people able to access outbound when they shouldn't. Could be weak or insecure passwords, old versions of Java or Flash, just a lot of things that the reports can highlight. And just to show you an example, so this is our endpoint security and backup. You'll notice some machines are running AVG, some machines are running Security Essentials, some are running Viper, some are running nothing. Just a lot of different things across the network, and a great opportunity to put in a centralized managed product and get them some uniform coverage. Our external vulnerability scan, again, is put together automatically for you. We perform the scans, we maintain the servers, nothing you really need to do on your part, but key in the IP range and we do the rest. It's great for locking down ports that aren't needed. It's great for uncovering issues on the network. And again, there are oftentimes things just as simple as upgrading to a newer version of a product or closing out a port that's not needed. So service really is part of the name as being a service provider. So if they have a provider today, do they know about these problems? If they do know about them and they're doing nothing, then that's kind of a sign of a not good provider. If they don't know about the problems and of course aren't doing anything about them, that's again a sign of a bad provider. It's something that when you go into these environments and you discover a lot of mismanagement and security risks, time for a change. Another thing is, of course, you can use these for doing the lead gen and prospecting, but what about when they sign on? Well, you got to onboard them. You need the documentation in your system. You want to set up a game plan to get them to a state where they can be effectively managed and not cost you a lot of money. And outside of that, you want to get everything in your system so that you can more effectively manage all of that. So part of it's obviously creating the documentation, which we do directly. Another part of the remediation plan, that's often our risk report. So, put in a secondary domain controller, close all the old user accounts, lock down the ports, remediate the external vulnerabilities. Just different problems that are all laid out in the risk report, and that's part of your remediation plan. Exporting, we have an Excel output, which is great because you can save as CSV and put it into any of a number of things. But as I mentioned earlier, we also have that direct integration with Autotask and ConnectWise to create configuration items and update them, also to create contacts and update them. Kind of a full disclosure, set expectations, but a lot of tools out there, Level, GFI, Enable, Kaseya, they create their own configuration items and they're often locked, so only their product can update them. So we create our own set and we update our own set. So It may be something that if they have a server that's currently being monitored by, say, Kaseya, and that's going into your RMM, great. Don't export servers. We have the ability for you to pick and choose what you want to send to the PSA. So just, kind of keep that in mind when you're exporting, and, it's definitely going to help you get printers and non-AD devices and workstations and servers in a lot of cases as well where you're not monitoring their environment because they're break-fix. Another thing is you're looking to discover and sell projects. So you want to run these regularly at your customers to find new opportunities. XP migrations, again, something that's huge because you may have a lot of customers that are running XP systems in addition to the prospects where you're obviously kind of selling against that, but this is a great opportunity to do that. Some projects you might find, centralized patch management, content filtering, maybe you need to move them all to a new version of Windows, move them to a standard version of Windows between all the machines. That way you can run the same software on all of them. Network Detective is fantastic for doing these sort of projects because you're going to make sure you have the right head counts, the right number of devices you're installing something to, the right number of users you'll be licensing to, the right hardware requirements. Just a lot of things that this is going to help speed up and automate that discovery process and then the reporting. Something as simple as an XP migration is done easily through the XP reports, but what about like an Exchange migration? I think a lot of users understand, if you were rolling out a new version of an antivirus and, it didn't find its way to a field agent's laptop, but what about email? You're doing an Exchange migration and somebody's mail was unavailable. That's, not going to be acceptable. So this is a good way to make sure you know all of the parameters and all the settings for the mailboxes, the aliases, the other addresses, the quotas and retention policies, the distribution list that it belongs to. Great way to just make sure you're doing the right things as you're doing those migrations because you really need to do a lot of documentation beforehand just because it's such a business critical app. Again, we do change reporting as well, so the reports are fantastic for closing out work and getting paid, showing them what you did, how you did it, showing them that it's done, and getting that check coming your way. Of course, something we really do recommend is running these on a regular basis. Part of that's just to make sure your technicians are doing the right thing, also to make sure you're not overlooking projects or opportunities, but what about keeping them as customers, increasing that stickiness or retention? Well, a quarterly business review is a fantastic thing to put into play, and the way we license Network Detective, as you'll see in a minute, really does help you do that. They're great collateral for sitting down with the customer and showing them you're doing a good job. It's going to help keep your competition out. If a competitor were to come by with Network Detective, could potentially make you look bad if you're not, keeping things nice and tidy and safe and secure. And these are a good way to stay on top of the game. Also, they're great for doing, say, like a rights assessment with your current customer. In our Exchange module, we do delegate access and distribution lists. In the security module, we're looking at share permissions, both on a user-by-user and a share-by-share basis. In the network assessment, we're looking at security groups and user accounts. So it's a good thing to go through with your customer, maybe every 6 months or every year, just to make sure that things are how they need to be because, oftentimes somebody can be added to the administrator group or hire an intern that needs the same rights as a different person. And it's just something that organically can kind of change over time, and you need to stay on top of it. And it's something that your customers will really respect and appreciate. Helps build that trust and rapport. You can discuss upgrades during your quarterly review as well. Old XP machines need to be upgraded, either hardware or software or both. You can also bill for the machines that may have showed up with or without your knowledge. So somebody goes to an Office Max and buys a computer, drops it on the network. You would probably never know if you were just using your RMM, unless maybe you had to say a site visit, because generally things have to join the domain in order for your agent to be pushed out to it, which means if you're just using your console to track what they're using or what they're not, you may be missing out on things that are currently living on their network. So the change report is going to be a great way to show those changes. Also, we do a full scan of the network, whether it's part of the domain or not, so you're going to get all of that information and know what you should be billing for. So I hope I've shown you a good bit of what Network Detective can do. I'll, of course, be joining in during the QA session at the end. But at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mark Winter, who's going to close us out.
Hey, thanks, David. Really appreciate that. Terrific stuff. So, just to quickly summarize, as you saw, Network Detective gives you the ability to run non-invasive scans on both client and prospect networks very quickly and easily. And since the data collection is automated, right, you won't accidentally forget to gather key information like you might if you're doing it by hand or using point tools and bringing the stuff all together. As David showed you, you can really customize and brand the reports with yours and your client's information and logos and colors, layouts, completely white labeled. And the reports are Word and Excel documents so that you can add and edit and do what you need to with those reports. And then the ability to populate configuration items with Autotask and ConnectWise will really save you a lot of time and reduce the chance of errors as you're entering that information into your PSA system. And of course, the whole point of this is to close more new business and projects with existing clients too. So definitely use the security module in the reports to develop and brand a security service. You saw the external vulnerability report. There's a ton of additional reports. The result is going to be truly more satisfied, more loyal clients. And I've never spoken to an MSP yet who wasn't looking for a way to increase the, the retention and stickiness of their customers. While at the same time, you're building a brand new, affordable, recurring revenue stream. It really will help you find and close project revenue too, whether you're providing a managed service, offering it a la carte, or looking for XP migrations. Offering these kinds of services and reports will really make you stand out. So let me just talk a little bit about how it's licensed, put together, and priced. As I mentioned to start with, Network Detective does have 3 modules. There's the Network Security and Exchange. They're available separately, or you can kind of bundle them together to meet your business needs. The Network Assessment module contains everything you need to really understand what a prospect or customer's network has, put together a proposal, and deliver that information to the client. All these reports are potentially customer-facing, and the Network Assessment module does include a new XP migration report, really designed just to help you scope and sell an XP migration. And of course, it includes the export to ConnectWise or Autotask capability. The Security Assessment module, a number of additional reports. These are extremely complementary to what's in the network module. It's great for prospecting. It really is, for a large degree, the deliverable if you're offering a managed security service. A ton of great information, everything from the external vulnerability, internal vulnerability, the share permissions, as David showed you, terrific information. The Exchange module, great for documentation, understanding what's there. We've got folks who absolutely love this report. Just to have the documentation on the environment once or twice a year is essential for a lot of larger companies. But as David was telling you, all the information you get here is essential to really scoping and understanding what's going to go into an Exchange migration project, and then of course run it afterwards to document the results of your work and get paid.